If you're still awake, welcome. This is 2:14 after midnight, a place for late-night horror, uneasy stories, and the kind of nights that feel wrong long before morning. Tonight's story is called The Hours Between. So lower the lights, keep the door locked, and listen carefully. There's a specific minute I can't hear anymore without my stomach dropping. 2:14 a.m. That's when it started, the first week I moved into that house. It never once came at any other time, and I've stopped believing that's a coincidence. First night, I figured it was kids. The doorbell went off. 2 rings, then nothing. And I lay there telling myself the easy version. Somebody at the wrong address. Somebody's idea of a joke. The AC clicked off right after, and the house went quiet enough that I could hear my own heartbeat in the pillow. And under that, fainter, the porch light outside doing its low, electrical buzz, on and off, like it couldn't decide whether to stay lit. I picked an explanation I could live with, and let it drag me back under. By the second week, none of my explanations were holding anymore. I'd just come out of a divorce, and the settlement wasn't going to stretch to anywhere nice, so I found a rental on the east side of town, one of those streets where the houses sit close together and the trees are older than everyone living under them. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a garage door that never fully shut, and a landlord who took $20 off the rent every month I didn't call him. Seemed like a fair deal. The hallway ran straight from the front door back to the kitchen, bedrooms branching off it. Mine was at the end, with a window looking into the neighbor's yard. First morning I stood there with coffee and watched a woman a couple houses down sweeping her porch, the kind of sweeping you only do after you've done it 10,000 times. She caught me looking and lifted a hand, not quite a wave, more like she was marking that she'd seen me. I went over later to introduce myself. Her name was Carol, 70-ish, cardigan on despite the heat. She asked how I was settling in, and then, almost too casually, whether I'd talked to anyone who used to live in the house. I said no, just the landlord. She nodded like that told her something. If anybody comes by late, she said, you don't have to answer that door. Then she smiled, patted my arm, and went back to sweeping like she hadn't said anything at all. I told my sister about it on the phone that night, and we both laughed. Every street's got a Carol. The house had its own sounds, the way any house does once you've lived in it a week. The AC kicked on and off on its own schedule. A sink in the hall bathroom dripped if you didn't jiggle the handle just right. Cicadas going most of the night in the yard next door. And every so often a car passing 2 streets over. Tires on wet pavement even when it hadn't rained. None of it meant anything. I cataloged it the way you do in a new place, filing each sound under ordinary, so that anything outside the catalog would stand out. Second week, the doorbell went again. 2:14, same rhythm, 2 rings. A pause the length of someone stepping back to wait, then nothing. This time, I got up. There was a board in the hallway, maybe 8 feet from my door, that groaned no matter how you stepped on it. I hid it in the dark, and it startled me almost as bad as the bell had. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and went quiet, the way dogs do when even they've decided there's nothing worth the trouble. Through the glass panel by the front door, I could see the porch light doing its thing, a moth knocking itself softly against the bulb. The buzz of the bulb itself, just audible under the hum of the AC still running somewhere behind me. I checked the peephole. Empty porch, empty steps, just the street lamp, Carol's dark windows across the way, and somewhere past all of it, faint enough to almost not be there. After that, it settled into something like a schedule, except it never came the same way twice, which was somehow worse than a pattern you could brace for. 3 or 4 nights a week, always in that window between 2 and 2:30. One night, the doorbell, 2 clean rings. One night, knocking. 3 knuckles, unhurried like whoever it was had nowhere else to be. One night, my phone lit up on the nightstand, face down, buzzing against the wood 3 times. No missed call, no notification, just the lock screen, and the time. 2:14. Sitting there. I did the normal things. Looked up faulty doorbells, phones glitching on certain networks, called the doorbell company and got a guy who told me the thing ran on battery, not house current, so wiring wasn't really the answer, but sure, batteries do weird stuff sometimes. I could hear him not caring. I don't blame him. 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have cared either. There was one night it didn't do anything at all. No bell, no knock, no phone. And that was worse than the nights it did. I lay there past 2, past 2:30, past 3, waiting for something that wasn't coming, and the waiting had its own weight to it. A dog barked twice outside and quit. The porch light did its low buzz, the one I'd stopped hearing until the silence gave it room again. I dropped off somewhere near 4 and woke up with the specific, sourceless feeling that I'd missed something while I wasn't looking. A few nights after that, I woke up around 1:30 to nothing in particular. No sound at all, which by then was its own kind of alarm, and I lay there running through the ordinary catalog I'd built that first week. A sea, dripping sink, cicadas, distant tires. Every one of them was missing. The house had gone quieter than a house is supposed to get, like something had reached in and turned the volume down on all of it at once, and I lay there waiting for the ordinary sounds to come back before I let myself relax enough to sleep again. I started leaving the hallway light on. Didn't stop anything. It just meant that when I got up to check the door, I could see the yellow rectangle it threw on the carpet, and some nights that rectangle had a shape at the edge of it that hadn't been there when I turned the light on. Nothing you could point to. Just a thickness in the dark near where the hallway opened into the kitchen, gone the second I looked at it straight on. There was a night I woke to footsteps in the kitchen. Not upstairs. There was no upstairs. Just the one floor. But the sound was clearly separate from my room. Further off, moving at an ordinary walking pace across the linoleum, like someone getting a glass of water at 3 a.m. I lay there and counted them. 6 steps. A pause. 4 more. Then quiet. I told myself it was the house shifting. Pipes cooling. Whatever word I had left that hadn't already stopped working. In the morning, I checked the kitchen floor for scuff marks I already knew wouldn't be there. I want to be clear. I wasn't someone who believed in this kind of thing. I'd have told you, before that spring, that there's always an explanation, that the world doesn't owe you a tidy story. Just a true one. I still think that. I just don't think I have the true one yet. 3rd week, I went back to Carol. She was on her porch, iced tea sweating in the little table beside her. I didn't dress it up. I asked her straight out what she'd meant about the door. She sat with it a while before she answered. Said the family before me, a mother, a teenage son, left in the middle of the night. No notice. Moving truck gone before anyone on the street was even up. Before them, a man on his own, she said. He didn't leave in the night. Ambulance came for him instead. She said it flat, no drama in it, which was somehow worse than if she'd whispered. I asked what happened to him. She looked at me like she was deciding something, then said she didn't know. Not for certain. And that, not knowing for certain, was the kind of thing you learn to live next door to. It comes around too, she said, not a question. Sometimes the bell. Sometimes it just knocks. I asked if she'd ever answered it. Nobody who's opened that door stuck around to tell anybody what happened next, she said. That's not me being dramatic. That's 3 tenants I've watched run. I said, maybe they just moved. People move. Middle of the night, she said. Furniture still sitting in the yard. Go ahead and call that moving, if it helps you sleep. I didn't have anything to say back to that. She topped off her tea, didn't offer me any, and for a minute, neither of us said anything. The two of us just sitting with the sound of somebody's sprinkler ticking on down the block. Eventually she said, not unkindly, that she wasn't telling me to move out, just that she wasn't going to lie to me about what she'd watched happen 3 times already. I thanked her, which felt like a strange thing to thank someone for, and walked home, turning the number 3 over in my head the whole way. Knowing the shape of it almost made things easier for a while. I stopped answering, wore earplugs some nights, told myself if I never opened the door, whatever this was would get bored and go be somebody else's roomer. Then the sounds moved inside. It started small. A creak from the attic hatch above the hallway, like weight settling on old joists. I told myself it was the house cooling, wood doing what wood does. Then it happened at 2:14. Exactly, 3 nights running, and wood doesn't usually check a clock. By the 3rd night, it wasn't just the hatch anymore. There were footsteps overhead, slow and evenly spaced, crossing from one side of the attic to the other and back, the ceiling ticking faintly under each one, the way old plaster does when something walks it. I lay there tracking the sound with my eyes shut, the same way you'd track someone crossing a room you couldn't see. After the attic, it was the basement door off the kitchen. It stuck in its frame. I'd had to lean my whole shoulder into it just to check the water heater when I moved in. One night I woke to that door being worked open, slow and deliberate. The stick, the release. A pause, the stick again. Whoever was doing it knew exactly how much force it took, same as I did. It stopped about 4 feet from the bottom of the stairs, then a single footstep on the stairs themselves. I knew that particular creak, 3rd one down. I'd learned it walking those stairs myself. After that, nothing. Just the fridge kicking on in the kitchen, that low hum filling the house like something breathing out. I didn't get up. I don't think I've ever been that still in my life. A week or so later, lying awake around 1 in the morning, I heard something in the wall behind my headboard. Not tapping, not scratching. More like weight shifting inside a space where there shouldn't have been room for weight. It lasted maybe 10 seconds and stopped. I put my hand flat against the drywall afterward, like that would tell me anything. And the wall was just a wall, cool under my palm. Ordinary. I lay back down and stared at the ceiling for a long time, doing the thing where you tell yourself the house is 100 years old, give or take, and old houses settle, and settling makes noise, and none of that has anything to do with anyone standing inside your wall. The discovery was almost an accident. I was up in the crawl space over the garage hunting for a box of winter clothes, and found a shoebox wedged behind a rafter, wrapped in a grocery bag, gone brittle with age. Inside were photographs of a man in his 50s, mostly alone, standing in front of the house across different seasons and haircuts, like he'd been keeping a record for no one in particular, and a folded sheet of notebook paper, small, cramped handwriting, dated a little over 2 years back. It wasn't a suicide note. I want to say that clearly, because that's the first thing anyone assumes. It read more like something between a diary entry and a warning to whoever came next, though it never said that outright. He wrote about a sound at his door not long after he moved in. Thought it was the paper boy at first. Then neighborhood kids. Then just his own nerves. Said he started answering it out of spite more than curiosity, tired of losing sleep over an empty porch. In the margin, almost as an afterthought, he'd written down the same time twice, 2:14, like he was double-checking his own memory. He wrote that after the 3rd time he opened the door to nothing, it stopped being nothing. The last line just said it wasn't the door being opened that it wanted. It wanted to be the one who opened it. I sat up there a long time with dust in my throat, reading that line over, trying to make it mean something smaller than it did. It wouldn't. That night, it didn't wait for 2:14. I was still up, sitting in bed with the lamp on, the shoebox on the floor by my feet, when the knocking started. Not at the front door, at my bedroom door. 3 slow knuckles, close enough I felt it in the frame more than heard it. There had been no footsteps first. That was the part that got to me. No sound of it arriving in the hall at all, like it had already been standing there and only now decided to let me know. I said, out loud, that I wasn't going to open it. My voice came out smaller than I meant it to. The knocking stopped. Then the knob turned. Slow. All the way. The same small metal complaint it always made getting dressed in the morning. It held there. Turned as far as it would go. And I understood. The way your body understands things before your head catches up. That unlocking it wasn't going to be enough. It wanted the opening to come from me. I reached over without thinking and worked the chain lock across the door frame, and it clicked into place louder than I expected, loud enough that I flinched at my own doing. On the other side of the door, nothing changed. No footstep back, no sound of it leaving. I sat there long enough that the lamp started to feel too bright and my own shadow on the wall too big. Long enough to hear something through the door that might have been breathing and might have just been my own blood in my ears. I honestly couldn't tell you which. Somewhere behind me, out past the window, a car went by with its base turned up, gone in a few seconds, and remember being almost angry at it, at how normal it sounded, like the rest of the world had no idea what was happening 4 feet from where I sat. Eventually the knob turned back, settling with the same small click it always made, and then nothing. No retreat, no floorboard, no attic hatch, just the fridge humming 2 rooms away, indifferent to all of it, and my own breathing slowing down by degrees until it was an ordinary house again at 3 a.m. I told myself I'd won something. I'm not sure that's the word for it. I moved out 6 weeks later. Told the landlord it was a job transfer, gave proper notice, hired real movers who came in daylight and loaded the truck at the curb like any other Tuesday. Carol watched from her porch the whole time. When I went to say goodbye, she just nodded, like she already knew how the scene ended before it happened. The house sold fast. A friend on the street told me later. Young couple, baby on the way. I think about warning them sometimes. Finding some way to say it that doesn't sound insane on a stranger's porch at 2 p.m. I never do. I tell myself they'll find their own version of it, on their own schedule, and that nothing I could say in daylight would mean much to them at 2:14 in the morning. I live somewhere else now. 3rd floor, buzzer system instead of a doorbell. No porch, no attic, no basement door that sticks. I sleep better most nights. Mostly. I want to say it's over. That distance was the fix. That whatever it was got left behind with the shoebox I couldn't make myself carry out of that crawl space. 3 nights ago, at 2:14 in the morning, my buzzer went off. 2 short bursts, evenly spaced. Exactly the rhythm I spent months learning not to answer. I lay there in the dark of a different city, a different bed, and listened to the building's own ordinary night sounds. A pipe knocking somewhere below, the elevator settling on a floor, someone's television murmuring through the wall 2 units down, and somewhere overhead, faint enough that it could have just been the building itself, the sound of someone crossing a room and stopping. None of it explained the 2 bursts I'd already heard. I checked the intercom screen by the door. Empty hallway, empty elevator light at the far end. Nothing. I haven't looked at it since. I've started leaving the hallway light on again, and some nights, right at the edge where the light runs out into the dark part of the hall, there's a thickness that isn't quite a shape, standing exactly where somebody would stand if they were waiting for me to finally be the one who opens the door.